Hi, everyone. I see that people are gathering, so I think that we might start already. And first of all, I want to thank you for your time, for being here, and for making some interest in the topic about AI. And today we will be talking about AI-powered conversations or the prompt engineering for the medical professionals. And I think that that's the classical story. So we have started talking with you about the generative AI and what it is in general. And right now we will come to the idea how exactly we can use generative AI tools or any other AI tools that requires the human input, how to make it correctly and how to effectively use this tool with the needed level of safety when working with them. So what we will cover today in our session, first of all, we will talk about the prompt engineering in the simple words without the overwhelming technical burden. So what it is prompt engineering and how you should perceive it, how you should work with the prompts, why knowing the exact correct methodology of working with the prompts is important for doctors. Then, of course, we will talk about the areas of prompt usage, and we will see some practical examples, how different prompts can be used, and how exactly the prompt formation can affect the output that you will get. Then we will, of course, talk about the safe communication with AI tools. And then we will speak also about how to develop your knowledge further and how you can try yourself working with the prompts and getting deeper into this field. With this, let us start. So what is the prompt engineering? So if you will search on the web, you will find kind of the cold and non-human description, something like the prompt engineering is the process of designing and refining input queries for the prompts to guide AI systems, especially language models, to generate accurate or contextually relevant and useful output. What does it mean in simple words? So prompt engineering is the process where you can deliver some instructions and to give this instruction to AI model so the AI model can understand what you're asking about. And with this, the AI model can give you the best possible answer. So there are some very important blocks in the prompt that define the quality of the answer. The one of the block is, of course, the right context. So you need to describe the situation in the context that will be understandable for AI model and that will give enough information to generate the output. Then, of course, the breaking down the complex questions inside the different steps. So it's also important to understand that AI model generates the response based on the understanding of the situation. So if you break the complex situation into the smaller pieces, then you have the higher probability that the model will understand your question in the correct way and give the output that will match exactly your expectations. There's the key concepts inside the prompt engineering. The first is the input design. So as I said, crafting the questions or the statements that provide sufficient context and constraints. So thinking when you ask ChatGPT or any other tools about something, if you really describe the situation with the needed context for the model to understand what you're asking about. So the short questions, of course, will lead to more vague answers or more generic answers. If you provide more context, you get the more precise answer from the system. So in this way, this input design is the most famous thing in all AI development fields and the AI usage fields, so garbage in, garbage out. So the question that you put inside the model defines the quality of the answer that you will get, and you should remember about it constantly. And of course, the output quality, so how we can estimate the quality of the answer from the ChatGPT, how we can also estimate it to not to oversee some kind of the hallucination in these responses, and how we can educate the model with each new answer to become better and to understand better what exactly we need right now from the model. And then iterative improvement, as said, constant refinement based on the feedback to align with the AI behavior with the intended medical use case. In medical application, of course, ensuring precise language and context is crucial because it's the basis for the safety of usage of AI-driven decision support and, of course, for patient education and research. So one more time about the prompts. Very easy version, in very easy version, prompts is just the way how you ask model about some information and how you get the answer. So how you understand if the answer was correct or not. Talking about the prompt engineering or the prompts, it's important to understand how exactly AI model understand our questions and how this understanding is differ from how the people are thinking. Because it's very easy to fall into this trouble that we think we used to behave in the same way throughout our lives. So we used to speak with the humans, we used to ask the questions from the humans, and somehow we think that if we will use the same strategy when speaking with the AI model, then the answer will be the same. And that's the critical mistake, because something that we need to remember that AI model, at the end of the day, that's the very good mathematical model that relates the different pieces of the information. But it really differs from the human level of thinking. So AI model understands text by converting words into the numbers. It's like following some kind of the instruction inside it. But as we talked the last time, it has some possibilities to reason, but definitely not the same as the human making. Basically, because of this needed context and emphasis on the quality of the information that you put inside your question is very important, because a model cannot have the second mind and think about something that you don't mention in your question. So it strictly responds to what you're asking. That's why each time when you speak with any kind of AI model, type in some questions, or generally speaking with a voice helper, you need to understand that something that you will ask will define something that you will get. And then, of course, using the context. As I said, it's very important for the prompt to decide what information is the most relevant. So you really, with how you tell your prompt, you narrow down the model to find the best answer that you should get. As I said, it's also important step-by-step response building. So in the model, in the process of building the answer, it doesn't mean that, as with a human, when someone asks us about some information, we might have already the full logical chain in our brain, and then we articulate this chain, and then we might particularly get to the dialogue or discussion with the person. In the model, it's slightly different. So when the model starts answering you, it's still building this chain. So it's not prepared before that. It's building upon your eyes. It's building very fast right now. Of course, if you ask something to ChatGPT, you can see like the words spreading out on the screen very, very fast. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that it's still like building token by token, and each new word is based on the previous. So like it's very good, as we also talked the last time, in matching the sequences and finding the patterns and building them a kind of the answer on the different words that has the highest probability to stay together and to give you some value. And of course, the need of the clarity, as I said, one more time, clear and detailed questions help to pick up the right pieces or the ingredients for an accurate answer. Vague prompts, as I said, example, the short prompts, or it might be the prompts that lack some concrete information or like really generalistic, not specific. They lead to the inaccurate questions. And basically that's the situation where I think that a lot of the different specialists, not only medical, but from the different fields already were. When you ask some kind of the vague question or not very good question or AKI prompt, then you get a very bad response from the model. And the first thing that you think, okay, AI is not working good, AI is too generalistic, it's not specific, I don't want to use it. But at the end of the day, it's still the fault on your side, because you need to ask the AI model in the correct way to get the correct prediction. So that's why any kind of AI model can be a very good help, but only if you know how to use it and only if you know how to communicate and estimate the answer from the model. So that's the very important thing to keep in mind, that communication really matters. With AI, it matters a lot when speaking with the people, and that's also the problem, that sometimes we even cannot speak with our colleagues. But speaking with the model, you have to be even more precise. You really need to understand what you're looking for and what you want to get. We will get right now very slightly through the different types of the prompts, just for you to understand the different approaches that you might use when building the prompts. The first one is the direct prompts. So when you provide the direct and clear instructions or the questions. So example of this might be the list the side effect of metformin, and then you already say what you need. Basically, it will be structured like the bullet points or the list of the different side effects. The good thing in this kind of the prompts, in the direct prompts, because it can minimize the ambiguity and it's like very good for the factual queries, but it limits the creativity. So it will just extract some information, structure the information, but if you want to broaden your contextual understanding, if you want to better understand the topic, it's not enough. So it will be just the theoretical facts just listed in the shortest form that will be applicable for this question. And then we have, in the contrast to the direct prompts, we have indirect prompts. So there's when we suggest language or context to guide the AI. With this, for example, we have the possibility to write, instead of the side effects of metformin, we can write how might a patient describe common experience with metformin. So with this kind of the indirect prompt, what we want to see is the suggestion on the feelings of the patient who has some side effects. So we want to understand this maybe topic better because of the different reasons. Either we want to describe something in the scientific part, or we want to communicate better with the patients, and we want to have the same level of communication with the patient to be 100% clear. But there's, as usually, comes some negative sides with this part of the prompts, because it can drift to the off-topic without the explicit constraints. In these indirect types of the prompts, you get on the side when AI tools can really generate something. So it can go more on the storyline, and you need constantly take a look if you're not going too deep into the generalistic description, and if it's not hallucinating even some facts that are not connected with this topic itself. Here's just the same two prompts with the examples of the outputs. On the left side, you can see this direct list when we just point that we need the list of the side effects. And on the other side, when we ask to describe how the patient can have the common experience with the side effect of metformin. And if on the left side, we have the strict description, then on the right side, we have some kind of the subject-specific description, like I feel bloated and gassy, or I have it give me the diarrhea at first, something like that. So it really helps to understand this point from the patient position. Then we have the second type, that the balance between two types of the prompts is the open-ended or specific prompts. So what does it mean, open-ended prompts? Open-ended prompts allow for broad or exploratory responses. So when you ask to describe something, when you ask to discuss any kind of the questions, and you use in this the AI tool as your second brain to get some useful information, to generate some insights, brainstorm, or maybe challenge your own position or your own view on this topic. That's a very good thing to try. But of course, with some kind of the predisposition that it may yield some target or overly generalized information, of course, you need to fact check in what the AI model will give you as the response. Because if you want to discuss something, if you want to generate some insights, be sure that all these insights and the generated information is based on the information that is listed in the guidelines or listed in some scientific papers. So with this, you can ask for some reference for each statement that OpenAI or ChatGPT or any other tools will make. And then, of course, we come to the specific prompts. Then we clearly define the required information. So it's like very similar. We just, as an example, we will ask to enumerate the current EDA recommendation for the type 2 diabetes management. So here we clearly state what we need, where the model should take the recommendation from, and then the exact type of the disease that we have. And of course, it just restricts the depth of the discussion, so just narrowly framed, and it just will give you the exempt of the answers without some discussion, insights, or second opinion thing. So you see here basically the same two examples, and the structure and the description, the language that the model uses. Like in the first case, in the left side, the language will be more generalistic, more easy to read, and more like discussive. And on the right side, we see that the language, of course, the difference. So it's like the strict recommendation, more like the medical guidelines is what you should do with minimum burden, with clear facts, and how you should go with this situation. And then the last type of the prompt that I want to cover in this entry section is step-by-step reasoning prompts. I think that these kind of the prompts are super useful when you also want to understand the situation better, when you want to have some ideas, and when you want to understand that your understanding is basically correct, or you might need to gather some new information from the different sources to educate yourself. So in this way, the example might be outline the step-by-step process for evaluating a patient with suspected myocardial infarction. So with this, you already make clear for the model that you want to have step-by-step process, and that you have the patient with specific disease, and it gives a minimum possibility for the model just to put any generalistic information into the description, but it should really go step by step, and it should provide you the clear information for this evaluation process. It, of course, enhances the transparency, and it somehow helps with the interpretability of the AI model. So we also spoken the last time that if we're talking about the generative AI tools like ChatGPT, we have the problem that it's like basically a black box. Because the model is so complicated, we cannot unbox and take a look how the model has made the predictions, so how the suggestion was generated, what was the basis, and in this weight among the different factors, which factor was the most important, why model decided to make this prediction. Like in the classical machine learning models, it's still possible, and that's why they can be certificated, because we can unbox them. But if we're talking about the generative AI tools, they're not the part of the medical device certification right now, basically because we cannot unbox them. We cannot understand and predict the behavior of the model. Application of this step-by-step reasoning model is very important step here, because you can see how the model made the prediction. Moreover, you can ask also to reason on each of the steps to make you understand so which factors was taken into account when describing this step. Sometimes with the links, sometimes just with the logic, but for you to understand and cross-check on the facts if you really trust the model and if you can go with the prediction of the system. So here's also the same prompt as I said to you about the evaluation of the patient. And we have a very detailed step-by-step evaluation with the initial assessment, and then the physical examination, and then the different type of the test that should be made for this patient. Before we will go for some practical information about the generative AI prompts and talking with the generative AI tools, I need anyway to talk about the safe cases of generative AI tools usage in the medical context, because it's very important. And still, any kind of the generative AI tools or tools from the AI tools from the third-party providers, the tools that is cloud-based and your medical institution cannot control these tools, are not safe for the usage with the sensitive data of the patient. That's very important to have in mind. And each time to check yourself before you will put any information inside these tools. Is it like the risky area, and how, if it's the risky area, how you can behave with the data of the users. It's the very important topic. Please, guys, pay attention closer to it each time when you want to go with the generative AI or any kind of AI tools. So in this blue circle, we have the safe cases for the generative AI usage. So it might be the clinical decision support, but as the secondary tool. So remembering that generative AI, though it feels incredible and it gives the feeling that model knows everything and can support you on everything, it's not so definitely it has the limitations. So that's why you use it as the second brain, but you check the answers. You still are critical to the answers, and you prove that each fact that included in the answer is correct. So it's not something that you can just switch on and then just believe in this tool. No, you need to remember that hallucinations are possible, and then of course that some information might be outdated or the information might be not correctly extracted from the sources. So you need to make this cross fact checking. Then research and education support, that's I think that one of the most interesting tools and the interesting areas of the generative AI tools implementation, because of course, with a good prompt engineering, you can extract more faster the needed information from the research papers. You can educate yourself better. You can make yourself with the quizzes or tests to understand how much you understand the information, and you can continuously test yourself on the topics where you want to develop your knowledge. Patient communication also with a sense of keeping the data private, but we will talk about it in some difficult cases when you need to deliver some information that is highly medical or very sensitive to the patient, and you lack some background knowledge how to do it correctly and how to describe the information the way that you will be sure that the patient has understood everything. The patient has the needed amount of the information, the patient knows what to come next, and the patient is relieved to some extent. These AI tools can be very good to generate this needed patient communication texts that you can use communicating with your patients. Administrative assistance, it's more like if you have the tool that is approved by your medical institutions, and then of course you can manage some scheduling, you can manage some kind of the time slots for your patients and so on. But please don't use ChatGPT for this, because your patients have a lot of the sensitive information. Yep, so it's better to make the type of these operations just with the tools that were already agreed with your medical institution. And then, of course, drafting and summarization of the information. I've also put the mark here. Why? Because when you're drafting or summarizing some of the information, please be sure not to include any sensitive information, and please be sure to cross-check what the model will give you, because I've showed you last time the example from one of the clinics where the doctor has just put the history of the patient inside the ChatGPT to make the summarization for the general practitioners, from the clinic setting to the general practitioner. And then the model has made nonsense just because the model hasn't understood the abbreviation. So here we have the problem that the doctor hasn't checked the output of the model, fully believed in it, and just shared with the general practitioner. And then at the end of the day, it created the problems both for the clinics and for the doctors, because like using these tools, you should be really careful and understandable that it has its limitation. Then let us talk very briefly about the not safe cases for the generative AI tools usage. First of all, that's unverified clinical decision-making. As I said, not trusting 100%, so it definitely not be seen as the tool that can replace the doctors, but it should be seen as the tool that can support you inside your working processes. Then, of course, direct patient information, it's not applicable for this, because model can generate some outputs that are not applicable for the patient. It can make mistakes. It can be sometimes the tone of the communication might be not so good. So before you will send any kind of the communication letter to your patient that was generated with the AI tools, of course, you need to check if the output was good enough and you're okay to send it to the patient. Then, as I said, automatic or critical decisions. I hope that no one will ever connect ChatGPT or any kind of generative AI tools directly to any kind of the life-saving tools inside the clinic. So the human stays in the loop. So the human make the final prediction, the human decide what are the final decision, with the support, with some information that you can get from the ChatGPT, but definitely not replacing the human in this line of making decision. Unsupervised data entry, one more time, no sensitive data, no sensitive communication. So everything inside any kind of AI model that you use should be, first of all, must from the data privacy side. So instead of using some kind of the direct information like the age, you can use the age groups, for example. And then, of course, omitting any kind of the critical sensitive information as the address of the person or names or IDs and so on. So trying to be as much as possible conscious about the sensitive data and not putting our patients at risk and our reputation at the end of the day. With this, let us dive more into the practical use cases. So I have gathered them into different groups, which might be applicable for the audience that we have today. So first of all, that's the generation of the differential diagnosis, something that might be difficult from the different areas. First of all, if we have the cases that are difficult itself to understand, and maybe it's not your main area of work, and that's why you need some support. So you need, as I said, the second brain or the second opinions. So usually how it's done previously in the traditional approach is when you discuss the differential diagnosis on the clinic, rely on the clinical experience of yours, or you might go and consult with more senior expert in your team. But there might, as I said, be some limitations in the time, in your knowledge, and here comes the potential of using AI. So in this way, you can use AI as the second opinion to broaden your diagnostic consideration, but still you need to validate it with your clinical judgment and additional tests. So it's very good from the terms of the efficiency, because it can save you time for some kind of the manual reasoning, for calling your senior colleague or something like that. But it can also generate some vague responses. It can hallucinate, so you need to double check before you will go and put in action the differential diagnosis that the model has provided you. So that's the basic. And we will have right now two cases. One of them are not successful, and the second one is successful. And let us speak why exactly this case is successful or not successful. So if we will use generative AI tools, or let us speak general AI tools for the differential diagnosis, it's important to keep the things that we have spoken before, the clarity of the information, the context that we give to the model to understand what exactly we want to have as the output. So in the first case on the left side, we see the prompt that is just basically what could be causing a patient's chest pain. And this question, it's short, it's generalistic, it doesn't provide any supportive information. So of course, if you will put the question like this inside the ChatGPT or any other models, you will get just a list of very broadened cases. So it won't be specific, it won't help you anyway. It's the same as you might just Google, and it really has no efficiency. And potentially can have, of course, the harm, because you will be even more lost between the different options. On the right side, you see the example of more successful prompt. Why it's successful? Because it provides age, it provides symptoms, it provides some kind of the relevant medical history that might be important to make the differential diagnosis in this case. And it allows to generate more clinically relevant suggestions. It also asks for rank list, which help to prioritize a condition based on the likelihood. So you said, okay, there might be a few different conditions, and I ask you just to understand which of them are more likely based on the symptoms, based on the clinical history of the patient. And of course, it's considered both cardiac and not cardiac causes, like it's just the possibility to play and also have, as I said, as the second AI, when we just try to differentiate between the different causes and see the correlation between these causes and how exactly we can assess this. When you use the prompt on the right side, of course, you have much more structure, much more correlated to your case information, and then it helps you to understand also, or to support your any kind of the differential diagnosis that you have previously made, or maybe it can push you to think about something else that you haven't considered before. And as I said, especially that's important in the cases when we have, when we're not 100% sure in the diagnosis, when we need some support and we need maybe to educate yourself about the different possibilities and how to assess the possibilities that we might have. Below you can see the follow-up prompt and follow-up for the evidence-based support. So that's mainly if you want to go deeper, so you're okay with the answer from the right side prompt, and then you just want to understand and to get deeper into this topic and educate yourself more on this topic. The next practical use case is evidence-based treatment recommendation. similar to the differential diagnosis. So we might have potentially the diagnosis for the patient, but we're looking for some kind of the treatment and the treatment recommendations for this patient. But because we have some limitations, the knowledge, we don't have the access to the senior colleague, or the clinical guidelines are too broad. We don't have enough time just to read through all of them. We can use the AI tools for this to summarize the information, to get this treatment recommendation in the more convenient way when we can easily select among them. So here we use AI as the possibility to recommend us or guide us and cross-reference with the current clinical standards. So it's very important here that it should be taken as the suggestions. It should be in the prompt, you should refer to the concrete guidances that are applicable in your country or applicable in your medical institutions. And you should be very clearly describing the situation, as we will see right now in the case. So left side, one more time, the bad prompt. We have the prompt that stated what is the best treatment for the diabetes. Why it's bad? The same as the previous example, because it's a very broad description. So the diabetes, it's just an umbrella that have the different types, and it has the different management strategies under this. And then we have, of course, the patient-specific context. So in this prompt, we don't understand any information about the patient that, of course, very important when you propose a treatment. And then you just push with a prompt like this for AI to generate a very broad and not needed answers that lack relevance. And definitely, if you'll put something like that, I sure in just 2-3 attempts, you will say, yeah, it's not useful. And generative AI just for the SMM managers. Now, as I said, the quality of the information defines your response that you will get from the AI model. So on the right side, you see another prompt that, of course, has patient-specific information. Everything that might be important when we make the treatment recommendations for the patient. And the same as you do in the clinical setting, the same as you do with your colleagues. You no one come to your colleagues and just saying, like, what is the treatment for diabetes? Of course, your colleague will ask you, tell me more about the patient. Tell me more about some kind of the predispositions. What exactly, which guidances you want to use when you want me to provide you with some information and so on. So the same structure and the same clarity should be also delivered for AI model. So we also request here some specific guidances. Here's this EDA guidances, and then we ask for more than one, for more than just a drug name. So we also want to understand the mechanism of action of this medication and some additional benefits. And we need to understand the information from all sides, because still, if we have lacked some information, if we haven't described clearly, then the model can give some kind of the examples of the medication that should be prescribed for the patient. But we, at the end of the day, as the doctors, need to estimate if the proposed recommendations are okay or not okay. So for this, we need to see this mechanism of action and need to understand what are the pros and cons for each of the cases. Next one is the patient communication. Here, I will stay as the patient because when I come to the doctor, sometimes I understand that the lack of the time and the lack of the possibility to speak with me gives this tension between me and the doctor, that the doctor is saying something in more scientific or medical version, and I'm trying to understand. And sometimes I'm just, as the kid or puppy, I'm just trying to understand from the facial expressions and the eyes of my doctor if something that the doctor is speaking about is it dangerous or not dangerous, and like the tests that are proposed for me, are they critical or not critical. So here exactly AI models can be used as the possibility to explain complex medical terms in more simple language. And it's like when someone's speaking the same language as I, so you understand what the doctor is talking about. Of course, it should be not made for any kind of the consultation, because you cannot sit and just program everything before you will speak with every of your patient. But if you have any kind of sensitive moments, if you need, you understand that for this patient, it's very important to deliver the information in the way where how the patient will understand exactly what is asked Then, of course, generative AI tools can be a good help. So you can use AI to generate some explanation as the script. And then if you have additional time, you can, of course, match it for your personal communication style, or you can match for the patient level of understanding. But at least if you have some explanation of the script, and each time you will have the old lady that has this kind of the problems and continuously come to you asking for the same information, maybe you can try just to explain in the different wording, and then the communication will be much better. So the patient will be relieved, the patient will have the needed amount of the information, and you will be also relieved because you don't need to explain the same in the medical terms one more time. Again, two examples of the prompts. One is the explain what diabetes is. Also, we don't have any information about the level of the explanation, about the audience for whom we prepare this explanation, why exactly it's important, what we want to include in this description. That's why 100% sure if you will put the prompt like this, you will get kind of the scientific description of the diabetes with some mechanism, but definitely not something that will make patients more understand about this disease. In the right side, we have the prompt that encounters this patient-specific information. So for whom we want to deliver this information. And then, of course, what level of the medical knowledge the patient has. In the majority of the way, of course, it will be like minimum or no medical background. Yeah. And then the good thing here is that we use this prompt to in his AI model to use analogies to help patients to understand, for example, how insulin works, because our brain is built in the way when we have the analogy with the simple processes that we have in our life, it's easier for us to understand the complex things like the medication and their work. And if you use the prompt like this, then you will have 100% sure the very specific description that will be tailored for this patient with this background of understanding the medical concepts, and with the needed analogy that will allow to exclude any kind of the misunderstanding between the patient and the proposed treatment plan, for example. Then the next thing is drafting empathetic messages. So there might be some cases for the patients when you need to express some information, then of course we'll be upset for the patient, especially if you're working with some kind of the chronic diseases, if you're working with the cancer departments. There are some cases where you need to understand that the patient, at one hand, feel the human touch, so the information is delivered in the way that the patient understands that someone standing behind this information, someone wants to help me. So the emphasizes should be put on top of this message, but also we need to have the clear structure of the next steps, and we need to ensure that the patient understands correctly, one more time, that the context that we deliver to the patient, because in this difficult situation, a lot of the thoughts occur in the mind, and sometimes people just don't understand what's standing here behind these medical terms, if it's dangerous, if it's like already at the end of the story, or I have some changes and my doctor has some kind of the plan how to go with this. So with this, you can use AI to personalize the messages to ensure they reflect human level of care and match the patient situation. But one more time, of course, without any kind of the sensitive data of the patient, just the pre-designed draft that you can use when communicating about some cases. So on the left side, example of the prompt when we ask to write a message to a patient telling them that they have cancer. Like it's definitely something that you will get from the ChatGPT will be quite emotionally cold, and we haven't specified the tone or details or next steps. So of course the ChatGPT cannot generate it because it's not aware what we want from the model. And of course, it can generate insensitive messaging, like in some words of support, because like model doesn't understand, model doesn't feel the same as human. So we definitely need to refer to some information about the human feeling if we want to have a good draft message here. On the right side, we have redesigned the first prompt, and we have added write a compassionate message to a patient informing them of a cancer diagnosis. express empathy, provide reassurance, and outline the next steps, including scheduling a follow-up appointment to discuss treatment options. So we here emphasize the tone of the message. We said about the follow-up steps, and we have outlined the main message and the way of structuring this message that we want to have. As I said, it should not be made as the direct communication with the patients, because we have already discussed that this direct communication with the patients is unsafe way of using AI. So I encourage you, if you're working with this kind of the situation, if you have the difficult patient and you want to be sure that you're empathetic enough, you have clarified everything, you have discussed the next option, and the patient has the needed level of clarity about this, just to use AI as the tool to design these drafts before you will use them in the real life. As I said, generative AI and AI tools are perfect for summarization of the journal articles. Last time when we were speaking, I showed a few tools, research tools that you can use to surf through the different scientific papers to find and match the relevance between the difficult papers to get some kind of the short information about them. And today I want to speak more about how with the prompts, with the tools like ChatGPT, you can work further on with the summarization of the journal information. Of course, for me, the kind of these tools like ChatGPT are a game changer for the scientific processes, because it's like more faster, more efficient to extract the information, just to understand if you really need to spend time dig deeper into this article and reading it, or you just you just can leave this article because it doesn't provide you the needed information. So with this, you can use AI as the possibility to summarize the original article to ensure that important details are included into the summarization, and that the complex studies is explained in the way when you understand these complex cases in the simple words. So two prompts, also two examples. First of all, you might also say, just summarize this medical research article and just upload this article, and then you will get summarization at the end of the day. So the model understands that you want to have the summarization, but what you will have in the summarization might be not something that you're looking for, because you haven't also specified the context. You haven't indicated who wanted to make this summarization. Yep, so your specialization and maybe what is more important for you to summarize in this article. And also you haven't included the format and the length of this summarization. So it might be quite long, it might be pointed in the different lines, and not something that will be applicable for you. On the right side, you see the example when we have mentioned that please summarize the journal article on hypertension management for a clinician, highlight key findings, methodology, and clinical relevance in under 200 words, exclude technical statistics unless necessary for interpretation. So for this, we highlighted the length, we highlighted the key things that we want to see in the summarization, and then of course, we also ask about exclusion of some parts which might be not necessary for us right now. That's like the first step, and then of course, as soon as you have the summary, you can continue digging deeper inside this research paper, asking for some supportive information, and working with this research paper further on. One additional thing about like scientific papers, the next step, of course, is generated quick learning models. So especially if you're learning the new field, if you're a student, or if you're a practical doctor but want to educate yourself about the new area, or I don't know, the new findings that might be important for your understanding and knowledge, then of course you can use ChatGPT to generate quick learning models. So you can ask. You can provide some context about the topic that you're currently learning. You can also upload some information, maybe some summarization that you have previously made from this topic. And then you can use AI to generate models to align with your practices and to understand that it will give you like the testing model when you can test your self-knowledge, or maybe your colleagues, or maybe your students. Much more effective because it gives you the possibility to use different variation in this structure. It might be the tests, it might be the open question, and so on. And you can play with this. So basically, you can answer, and if you have made any mistake, then of course the model, AI model, can also refer to the correct answer and understand you maybe why you have made the mistake and help you to remember the information quicker. Also, two cases on the right side, create a training model on diabetes treatment. Also, just like in the information, you have already understood that the set questions are never good. And on the right side, we have explicit information about the length of the learning model, which exactly type of the problematic area inside the diabetes treatment we want to concentrate right now, for whom we're making this test, and also might be, this prompt might be explicit with some information about the basic knowledge that the person or the students have right now. So where the students now and where you want to go. You can structure it with the introduction, current guidelines, blah, blah, blah. So you have the full description that is important to design the questionnaire. As I said one more time, the same as we're doing with people. Please don't overestimate the possibility of AI to read your minds. It can. That's why all the information that you will put that is relevant will help you to tell your results. Basically, I'm not a medical specialist, technical specialist, but I'm using these quick learning models continuously when I have the new information, when I need to be sure that I have understood this information from the needed side. I basically put everything into the ChatGPT and then ask to create some kind of the questions to check if I understand the concept correctly or not. Now, like at the end of our session, I want to speak about how to go further on. So it was the theoretical basis for you to understand the different concepts, the different areas of prompt usage in the different cases. But of course, theory makes nothing without the praxis. So after this section, I hope that you will go and try some kind of the prompts. You will speak with AI model, you will assess the different answers, and right now, of course, you will pay more attention on the answers that you get and the questions that you have put to refine your strategy in the future and to get the better outputs. But for you to have as the next steps and the area of your education and the practical possibilities in the future, I have created the base, like the database of the most widespread prompts for the medical usage. It currently has 50 different prompts for the different categories and with the different cases. Where the prompt is stated, but of course it's not filled with the information that you might need. So in the gaps you can fill the information that is specific for this case, specific for this patient, and so on. After this webinar today, I will share with all the attendees the link for this space, so you can use it. It's in the Airtable. It's very easy. You will just get to the table, and then you can scroll. You can find the cases that might be interesting to you, and you can pass them and try in the ChatGPT to understand how to work with this. One important thing, of course, all prompts provided just for professional use only. Please do not include or paste any patient identifiable information or sensitive data into third-party AI tools, which ChatGPT is, without explicit approval from the institutional data safety team. Always anonymize and mask patient information before use. Very important to remember, guys. I really don't want to put anyone into the bad situation. So please think before and use carefully the information that you will have. Try to protect the sensitive data information and the very direct information about the patients before you will put something into the prompts into the AI tools. So final words. I have said already the safety at first. Safety also not only from the data side, but also safety from the side of understanding the possibilities and the limitations of AI models. So how exactly you can go with the AI model, how you should cross-check the facts inside the model, not just blindly believing that AI model can do everything, but just use it as the second brain that help you to summarize some information, get some insights, and be better in your reasoning process. Then the next the next point is that AI tools might change, but the way of communication will stay pretty the same. That's why it's important to understand that this prompt engineering, prompt strategy is just the, let us call it just the way of communication with the AI model. No matter which model you will have in your medical institutions, it might be not just ChatGPT, it might be some kind of AI tool for pathology images, for example. The way of communication and the way of assessing of the outputs will be the same. So you really need to spend some time trying the different tools, understanding how they work, and defining your strategy, how to communicate with them clearly, because it will make you stronger in the future when applying these tools. So educate yourself about the prompt engineering and, of course, how to make your work more efficient and which are the areas where you can really save some time by applying AI tools. And the final thing, of course, more webinars will come in April. So I have planned the next two. The first one will be what to talk about if the third-party AI providers will come to your AI institutions. So for you to be equipped and to understand how you can estimate from this medical institution side if you really need this AI tool and if your infrastructure is ready and which of the processes can be enhanced with AI. And I think that after that, the next one in April, we will make someone around the topic of the data safety. And there will be not just AI concept, but the other different innovation technology that might stand behind the data safety, like blockchain. Because anyway, the world is speaking about some kind of the creating the universal data sharing strategy in the future. And I think for the healthcare, it's very important because people are moving between the different countries and they constantly bring a piece of the information with themselves. So we need really to understand the future of the possibility of the data sharing, the data safety, and also how it can be used then in artificial intelligence field. With this, thank you very much. And I hope that this session was informative. If you will have any questions, please send me them in the direct messages. And as I promised, after this webinar, I will share with you the link for the Airtable. Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a good day. Bye-bye, guys.